After the Piers Morgan interview, something broke.
All women are annoying. All women grow old. They all get fat.
Not in the argument, in the system around it. People weren't debating the ideas anymore. They were debating who was allowed to be near it.
Fuentes, if you believe that Hitler was pretty fucking cool, you have no place in the future of the conservative movement.
That's when you know the gate didn't just fail. The system started reorganizing. Last episode, we showed how Nick crossed the gate and became unignorable. This episode is about what happens after that. Here's what changed. Public attacks stopped working. Every attempt to isolate him increased visibility. Every hit amplified signal, so enforcement moved. Not toward the source, sideways. And that's when you know the fight isn't about the idea anymore.
So, for example, if you host a Hitler apologist, Nazi-loving, anti-American piece of refuse like Nick Fuentes, the Nick Fuentes who said that the Vice President of the United States is a, quote, fat gay race traitor married to a Jeet. The person who said that Charlie Kirk was a, quote, retarded idiot. The person who said, and pardon my language here, it's his quote, that he, quote, took Turning Point USA and fucked it, and that's why it's filled with groypers. If you have that person on your show and you proceed to glaze him, you ought to own it.
Instead of arguing the position, establishment figures were asked to clarify theirs. Distance, denounce, draw lines. And that phase has a pattern. I call it orientation. Orientation is what happens when neutrality collapses. Every visible player has to choose a viable position. After the TPUSA summit, 3 response types emerged: mobility, forced spec, and signal only. 3 builds, 3 survival strategies. Let's walk through them. Build type 1, mobility. Megyn Kelley is a clean example. She was named directly during the enforcement push. That matters. When you're named, neutrality is no longer safe. Watch the shift.
I was called a coward by Ben Shapiro. I am convinced now more than ever that there is a crew for whom everything revolves around Israel. That friendships don't matter, love relationships don't potentially matter. The only thing that matters is whether you are standing up for Israel or not. And on top of that, you can even stand up for Israel as I have. You also must not just condemn, but defriend anyone who is raising questions about Israel. It's important that that other person be excised from polite society, be ostracized, that you join us in our messaging to tell the world that they're terrible, they're evil, they should be out of polite society.
She acknowledges grievances but avoids committing to structural changes inside the arena. No hard alignment, no permanent positioning. That's mobility. High optionality, low exposure, enough alignment to avoid being targeted, enough distance to avoid being locked in. Mobility works if you still have exits. Vivek didn't. His optionality collapsed earlier during the H-1B episode of 2024. When he defended the H-1B culturally, not just economically, backlash stacked. Because that moment clarified his position in the system. And once that happens, you don't get to experiment anymore. And after that, exits narrowed. He disappeared from certain lanes and re-entered through statewide electoral viability in Ohio. Vivek has shifted tone from exploration to reassurance. At the summit, his speech wasn't expansion, it was stabilization.
I think the idea of a heritage American is about as loony as anything the woke left has actually put up. There is no American who is more American than somebody else.
When he framed identity in clean binary terms, it signaled stability, not disruption. Pushback saturated. Shortly after, he wiped social media and rerouted communication through more controlled outlets like the Wall Street Journal. That's a forced spec, not necessarily a change in belief, a change in what the environment allows once exits close. When mobility disappears, builds lock. Then there's the bind. JD Vance sits inside it.
President Trump did not build the greatest coalition in politics by running his supporters through endless, self-defeating purity tests. I didn't bring a list of conservatives to denounce or to deplatform. And I don't really care if some people out there, I'm sure we'll have the fake news media, denounce me after this speech.
His rise ties him to elite infrastructure. That origin story matters. Engage the critique directly, and you trigger instability upstream. Ignore it, and you lose the base. So what happens? Language adjusts. At the summit, he rejected purity tests, declined to denounce, refused deplatforming, and immediately after, pivots to safe consensus wins like borders, economy, institutional rollback. This attracts applause without exposure. And that's signal only. Alignment in tone, distance in action.
President Trump did not build the greatest coalition in politics by running his supporters through endless, self-defeating purity tests.
A build optimized to absorb pressure from below while remaining viable above. Everyone understands who the language is for, and everyone understands who it's designed not to confront. Here's the structural consequence. The system didn't eliminate the Fuentes build. It reorganized around surviving it. When orientation replaces engagement, neutrality becomes dangerous. Every visible player has to declare position, and once that happens, the gate isn't a filter anymore. It's a sorting mechanism. If this phase doesn't resolve, then this isn't temporary. This is the new meta.